Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy T for 365 Horror, and this is a horror movie discovery channel. I am just here to put as many horror movies on your watch list as possible, and we're going to be looking at every brand new horror streaming release for the week of September 22nd, plus catching up on some and getting into my trailer reactions. So let's get into it right now. Now we're going to get into the video, but before we do, I've got to remind you guys to please like and subscribe if you like this content. And personally, I've been having a pretty good week. My team is 3-1 in NFL football, so I'm always happy about that. And I did actually pick up something pretty cool this week. I had seen something from one of my friends on social media. He showed like a little piece of horror memorabilia. And so I asked him, like, where do I get that, or where did you get it? And luckily, he did get it somewhere close to me, but here's the thing. I literally live on the other side of the tracks. Like on my side of the tracks, it's pretty nice. You know what I mean? It's not the best neighborhood. It's not like some rich gated community, but it's okay. But the other side of the tracks literally is kind of like drug zombies and just, yeah, it's pretty sketchy at times. And so he had told me that there was a store that was close to me, but it was on the other side of the tracks that did have it. I think it was called Instant Hemp. I don't know about the names, which is weird. Instant Hemp. Like, who even sells hemp products? Anyways, so I go down looking for this place, and I kind of drive, down the street, and I see it, and it's on a little bit of a side street that is in a pretty sketchy area. It's like right beside it is like the sketchiest liquor store that's open till 2 a.m. So you're always getting just constant traffic of that type, right? So, I pull up, I'm ready to get this thing. I jump out the car. There's dodge a couple, drug zombies, like I said, and I go into this store, and this store is like, it's like one of those stores where it's like, first of all, it kind of smelled musty, like just in the store. Like, I was like, why does it smell musty in here? That was kind of funny. And then it only had like 7 products on the shelves. I don't know if you've ever went to like one of those kind of little sketchy stores where they've literally got like 3 things on the shelf, like one of them being baking soda. And then it just had a couple like coolers of drinks. And then one of the thing that I was actually there to get was a drink, which I'll show you guys after. I'm going to set it up on the set. But yeah, even the drink coolers were like kind of warm. It was just a really sketchy place, but I did find exactly what I was looking for, which I did think was cool. Let me just make sure I can show it, which is this Chucky's Punch Fanta. I just thought it would be a really good addition for my set there. I like to kind of get some original kind of stuff. So I did end up getting that. I was happy. I made it out of there. My car was fine. You know what I mean? There was people kind of looking at me, because I'm not normal to that area, even though I don't live that far away. So that was kind of interesting, but I am glad that I ended up getting that. It was a good price too. It was just like a cheap pop, and I don't think anybody really cares about it, but I just haven't seen them anywhere else. So I did think that would be a cool addition to the set. And with that, let's not waste any more time and get right into some movies I watched. So the first movie I watched this week was the new iteration of the movie Witchboard that we covered last week. And it was a pretty fun movie. I did enjoy it. It had some pretty good gory moments, and it did take a pretty decent deviation away from the original Witchboard. But at the end of the day, it just kind of was cliche in the end. It was okay. Like, I did like the film enough. Like, it was entertaining, but I don't think it's anything that you need to like rush out and watch unless it was more like free on a service. It just felt a little kind of run of the mill. And the next movie I watched, which I'll definitely take a longer time because I finally got to see it, and that is the horror documentary Evil Unearthed. Remember, I don't know if you've seen all of the episodes. The director of that film, Matt Benton, did kind of tell me about the receipts and about the film, so I did finally get a chance to watch it, and it was okay. You know what I mean? I did really like the beginning of the film. I thought it started out like really strong. He kind of goes into this house and spends 3 days alone in it, so you kind of almost got this like horror film found footage element in the first bit, and there is a couple pretty creepy things going on, but as the movie progresses and you get to the second half, it does kind of become a little bit Ghost Adventures-ish, if I'm just being completely honest. Now, the one thing I did like about it was that Matt did say that he's got complete transparency and he's got 400 hours of footage, so there are receipts on this. So just because I'm not like fully convinced of what I was always seeing on screen doesn't mean that it isn't real. The second half, it just kind of gets a little bit Ghost Adventure-ish, you know what I mean? The one thing I did appreciate was I like that he does try to debunk a lot of the things that he's going through. So, you know, when they hear the noises or anything like that, he does kind of go back in the tape and try to identify, like, did somebody bump something or something? So a lot of the noises and a lot of the things that were happening, it did feel authentic. Once we got into some of the more traditional ghost hunting stuff, like some of the EVP stuff, some of the deprivation stuff, I just wasn't fully bought in. But hey, man, I'm a little bit more of a skeptic, so maybe I'm just a little bit harder on this kind of stuff. You know, to be completely honest, I'm like a cowardly skeptic. Like, I'm skeptical because I've never seen anything, I've never experienced anything, and so I don't really like believe in ghosts fully or anything like that. But at the same time, like, he stays in the Monroe house for 3 days by himself, and I would never do that. Like, I'm not trying to sleep in the murder house. Like, so I don't know what kind of skeptic that makes me. It's like, I'm not tempting shit, but at the same time, I just have never seen anything. I've never had an experience, even as a child. I've never heard weird noises, none of that. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's me, maybe it's my energy, but yeah, so I do think I would recommend watching Evil Unearthed. It had some pretty good moments, some pretty creepy stuff, like I said, especially at the beginning. And if you are somebody who is kind of into that Ghost Adventures genre, I will say that I do think that this is one of the more authentic experiences because, like I said, he does try to debunk a lot of the stuff that he's witnessing in real time. So yeah, that was actually a pretty good watch. It was decent. And if you like that kind of vibe and the Ghost Adventures feel, he does find a lot of cool things. And he really gets into the story well. Like the story of the house, he tells it well. The film looks great and stylish. A lot of the interviews are well done. I did think it got a little interview heavy at the end. I wish it would have kind of kept up more with the action, but I mean, he was fleshing out the story. This is a little bit of a longer film at almost 2.5 hours, but at the end of it, you know, I did feel like I had watched something kind of cool and just a really good kind of compelling story. So again, it didn't have the creeps and scares of just like a full film, like a horror film. So if you are kind of looking for that, then I would proceed with caution. But if you do like a good ghost adventure story, then I 100% suggest you check it out for yourself. And the last movie I did end up checking out this week was Dangerous Animals, which was another movie I really wanted to see. And again, it was just kind of middle of the road. Unfortunately, you know, of the two kind of studio films I watched, they were just kind of meh. I did like the premise again of Dangerous Animals. I liked what was going on. I thought it had some pretty good moments. I really wish they would have pushed the shark attacks just a little bit further, considering is that really what the movie was about. But I did find the main villain, he just had a really good kind of crazy quality, just some of the things he was doing. He was really good in it, but it also had a ton of plot armor, like characters who either should have died or shouldn't have, and they somehow survive. It's just a little bit, you know, kind of hokey that way. There's one trope that is starting to annoy me in horror films, and as I get older, I think it annoys me more and more. I always was a little bit annoyed at this, but it's kind of got one of those things where, say, you know, if you lift weights, you know, there's a plate. It's like they call it a plate. It's a 45-pound weight. It's the big ones, you know, it's kind of the bigger weights there as far as barbell weights. But there's one part, it'll be like, they will smash the villain over the head with the weight and he'll fall down and they'll kind of drop the weight and run away. And I really don't get that. Like, I really don't get why you wouldn't just keep swinging that weight at his head until there was nothing more. Now, we could, of course, go into like, well, they're traumatized and scared, but it is just one of the tropes that kind of annoys me. Like, you just watch this guy like literally murder like 4 of your friends in front of you, and you're not going to swing that weight until there's like nothing left. Like, I just don't get it. You know what I mean? Especially if I was trying to escape, man. Like, so other than those elements, to me, it was a little bit middle of the road. I would totally suggest watching it on a streaming service. I wouldn't pay any kind of premium price for this one, but it was just okay. But enough of my rambling, let's get right into some new films. And the first film we're going to take a look at this week is a horror sci-fi film named The Draft. And this movie is available on Screambox and Prime Video. 5 typical college students spend their weekend in a typical old villa, only to find out that they have to survive in a battle of wits against an absolute, almighty, all-powerful terror that is seemingly undefeated. Fight for your fate. It is directed by Yusran Fouadi. Okay, so after watching the trailer for The Draft, this one's shaping up to be a pretty decent zombie flick. Now, what grabbed me right away about this one is it does look like they're going to attempt some creeps and scares, and I feel like that's a little bit rare for a zombie flick. But at least when we look at the gore, this one looks brutal and bloody, and for me, that's kind of essential when it comes to a zombie film. But here's where we kind of get a little bit of a twist, because this one just isn't like an average kind of zombie run and gun. Because the trailer looks to do a really good job of kind of leaning into that meta vibe. It describes itself as a mashup between One Cut of the Dead and Shaun of the Dead. Basically, if you've seen those two movies, you know exactly why mashing those two together would be kind of wild. But now for the obligatory warning of that this one is a subtitled film, so you are going to be reading this movie. And while that doesn't turn me off per se, some people, they just don't like to read their films. So overall, this one could have solid scares, a little bit of blood, and a touch of humor. So it could actually be something decent to watch. So I think this one's going to get a regular spot on my watch list.
Tempat gini tuh pasti ada yang jaga.
Setan maksud lu. Di sini ada 4 kamar. Ini kamar nomor 1. Dan itu kamar nomor 2. Kemudian itu kamar nomor 3.
Jangan sentuh apapun.
Yang ruangan sebelah situ masih nggak boleh dipakai ya?
Ruangan itu belum dibersihin, Neng.
Yang putih-putih apa, Mang?
Itu kuburan Belanda, Den.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is an action drama horror named The Demon Detective. And this one is available on Google Play, Apple TV, and Prime Video. Miles Mako is a professional exorcist who takes on a new client after she encounters a demonic presence who may have links to the detective's dark past. It is directed by T.C. DeWitt. Okay, so after watching the trailer for The Demon Detective, this one looks like kind of a mess, subpar entry into the supernatural detective genre. So for starters, I will give the film this, that it does look like they're attempting to have some good like creeps and scares in it. So I don't think that it's exactly anything chilling, but at least it gives the film a little bit of atmosphere. And I actually think that the cast is one of the bright spots here because you've got Doug Jones, you've got Scream Queen, Adrienne Barbeau, and you've got Vivica A. Fox. So, I mean, these aren't exactly, no-name actors, so I'm hoping that their performances bring some weight to the film. But where this one lost me was just some of the CGI and graphics, some of the practical stuff that they did with some of those scares. Like when it was practical, they actually were good. Like I liked the setups, but once you saw some of the CGI stuff and just some of the bigger kind of CGI moments, it just made the film come off a little bit B-movie-ish. So yeah, I think The Demon Detective is going to try to do some creeps and scares and try to do something different, but it still is nothing that really just gripped me. So I think this one's going to get a lower spot on my watch list.
Have you heard of the 7 deadly sins? Who hasn't? That's like catnip for demons. The cracks and crevices for them to crawl inside you, control you, string you along like a little puppet.
The next movie we're going to take a look at is a drama fantasy horror named Went Up the Hill. And this movie is available on Google Play, Apple TV, and Prime Video. Jack ventures to remote New Zealand for the funeral of his estranged mother and meets her widow Jill, but his mother's spirit returns to inhabit each of their bodies, instigating a life-threatening 3-way nocturnal dance. It is directed by Samuel Van Grinsven. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Went Up the Hill, this one actually looks like a pretty good, deeper kind of ghost story. And I've definitely got to give a bit of a warning that this one looks like it's going to be a bit of an artsier film. Like, you can tell why they had horror as the third genre and drama as the first, because I think this one's going to definitely lean more on kind of character development and interactions and romance. So if it's like a Friday night and you're chasing creepy, scary, or gory, I just don't think that there's going to be much there. But at least this premise feels intriguing, the performances feel layered, and there's just this kind of lingering, haunting element just floating throughout the movie that gives it like a really good sense of atmosphere. Now, I want to give one fair warning is that I do think that this movie is going to be a little bit more of a slow burn. So if you're not really in the mood for that kind of drama horror, I think the movie will drag. But me, I am an art house fan myself, so I am hoping that they kind of give us something compelling here, as long as it doesn't kind of venture into just being a little bit like too weird. Now, Went Up the Hill isn't exactly like a Friday night fright fest pick, but I do think that it's something deep and compelling, and I wouldn't mind watching it, so I think this one's going to get a regular spot on my watch list.
I've been having trouble sleeping. I wake up in different places. I find my things in different places. As if someone's there. She's not gone.
Chill. Stop.
The last new movie we're going to take a look at this week before we play some catch up is a straight horror named Ladybug. And this movie is available on Apple TV and Prime Video. A young artist is stalked at his remote cabin by a killer who murdered his supernatural guest. It is directed by Tim Cruise. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Ladybug, this one looks like a meh to decent kind of stalkerish horror. Now, me personally, I do like obsessed stalker stories. Like, I really like the movie Swim Fan back in the day and just things like that where people get stalkerish. And I felt like there was a pretty interesting twist here because you just don't honestly see like a man stalking another man. I feel like that's kind of a different dynamic that does give the film a little bit of twist and edge. And it is coming from more of an LGBT kind of perspective. But when it comes to the creeps and scares and the gore, there honestly just wasn't much of it there. And while the film isn't terrible, it just is nothing, again, that is really like gripping or compelling me to watch it either. So yeah, when it comes to this film, Ladybug, I think that it's got a really good kind of unique angle, but I just didn't feel like the trailer kind of held enough punch. And I'm going to still give it a chance because we might get to see some sort of like really disturbing, obsessed stalker in this film. But again, I would have to have nothing really else to watch. So I think this one's going to get a lower spot on my watch list.
Yes.
Hi, I just moved into the cabin on the edge of Wiscasset Road. I was calling to see if you had a handyman that could come out and get the place up and running.
I'll send someone over.
I am so sorry for scaring you.
Is there someone there with you?
My handyman is hot as hell.
There's supposed to be another store on Davis Road. Had that guy recommend a place there.
We're the only one.
So now we're going to play a little bit of catch up, and I know that these movies are about a month old, but these are films that came out while I was on my puppy break. Who knew that so many movies were going to come out? But this movie is a horror thriller named All Alone Together, and this movie is available on Tubi. A tormented filmmaker's life becomes increasingly intertwined with the horrors of his own film. It is directed by Maximus Jenkins. Okay, so after watching the trailer for All Alone Together, this one comes off as a bit of a meh, kind of in the mouth of madness style psychotic break horror. Now, first I'll start by giving the film a little bit of credit. The main character really looks like he becomes unraveled, and I really love it when a movie can nail that kind of character coming unglued quality. And I found that his descent into madness gave us a couple of creeps and scares while we see these just like horrifying visions in his fracturing reality. But unfortunately, it's in the presentation where this film kind of slips, because some of the performances, they just carry that kind of B-movie quality, and it made some of the scenes in the trailer just really feel flat. And on top of that, the premise feels a little bit played out, and it just seems like something we've seen like plenty of times before. So in that respect, it just didn't really spark anything exciting for me. So overall, I think All Alone Together looks like it has some pretty good disturbing psychotic break moments, but it wasn't anything gripping for me, so I think this one's going to get a lower spot on my watch list.
How's the script going?
It's going. Why are you still here?
I'm always here.
I'm not gonna leave you alone. We're gonna make you normal.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a straight horror named Abraham's Boys. And this movie is available on Apple TV, Google Play, and Prime Video. Abraham Van Helsing moves his 2 sons to the United States in an attempt to escape their past. It is directed by Natasha Kermani. Okay, so after I checked out the trailer for Abraham's Boys, this one looks like a little bit of a middle-of-the-road kind of Dracula story. Now, first off, one of the things I liked was even though this is like kind of a traditional Dracula story, they're still kind of coming at it from a different angle. Even though it had a lot of the kind of classic Dracula trappings, like the girl who sees him coming and is kind of like wigging out. But this time I feel like we're following these kind of boys, and I think that that's going to give it just a little bit of a different element. But scare-wise, I just didn't see much, and although we get kind of a couple creepy visuals here and there, it's nothing that just really lands hard. But I will admit that the story had me a little bit minorly intrigued, because again, it does have the usual stuff like Dracula coming after the girl, like I said, but I really am interested to see exactly how these like boys factor into it. Overall, I think Abraham's Boys looks like kind of just a slower, subdued Dracula tale, and while it was okay, again, it was just nothing that was gripping me, so I think this one's going to also get a lower spot on my watch list.
I'm sure you've noticed your mother has been acting strange lately.
I see a shadow.
You must understand these demons can cross great oceans. We will set a perimeter. We are safe here.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a drama horror sci-fi named The Shrouds. And this movie is available on Google Play, Apple TV, and Prime Video. Karsh, an innovative businessman and grieving widower, builds a device to connect with the dead inside a brutal shroud. It is directed by David Cronenberg. Okay, so after watching the trailer for The Shrouds, this one looks like a classic David Cronenberg sci-fi style horror. So just for reference, Cronenberg is the director and the mind behind films like Crimes of the Future, Existenz, The Crash, and The Fly. So you know that this movie is going to be cut from a pretty heavy sci-fi cloth. Now right away I'm intrigued because the story feels deep even though it's kind of more drama at its core. But the visuals in the film really hint at something weird, unsettling, and kind of disturbing in that uniquely Cronenberg way. Now honestly, ever since my mother passed, I've always been drawn to these films where people are just trying to like make these connections with the dead. Honestly, I can usually feel the desperation and the lengths that the people are trying to go to make these connections with the dead, and a lot of times it'll even end up bringing kind of thoughts of my own loss. And just from those angles, I felt like this trailer had a lot of weight. And with the main character being played by Vincent Cassel, you know he's playing one of those kind of usual offbeat roles. And so you know that the performances in this one are probably going to be strong. So yeah, I think The Shrouds looks fascinating in that kind of eerie, off-kilter Cronenberg type of way. So I think that this one's going to get a regular to a higher priority on my watch list.
Those are the shrouds.
You mean like burial shrouds?
Not exactly. It's basically a kind of camera in her grave.
Don't you find it hard to take? It comforts me. It's like she's floating in outer space.
All right, last movie we're going to take a look at this week, guys, is a horror thriller named Oblivium. And this movie is available on Prime Video. While avoiding her grandmother with Alzheimer's, Skye discovers a chilling mystery. She and her friends face ghostly beings that fade from memory once out of sight, caught in a loop of forgotten terrors. It is directed by Ibrahim and Omar Ashmaway. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Oblivium, we're ending off with a little bit of a meh supernatural horror. Now, the premise for this one has a decent hook, and I think it paves the way for some pretty decent creeps and scares. And some of the visions that we saw on display were kind of eerie, and I loved how it kind of leaned into that kind of creepy, seeing something out of the corner of your eye vibe. Now, the only potential drawback I could see from this one is that the performances did come off a little bit wooden and gave it a little bit of a B-movie feel, and I really feel that that presentation just kind of undercut the tension. Now, because I did kind of like some of the creepiness I was seeing, and I did like the premise, I think I am going to give Oblivion a bit of a shot, but I don't have a ton of high hopes or faith for it, so I think that this one's going to get a lower spot on my watch list.
I think Grandpa saw them, and Grandma sees them now. And I think we're seeing them too.
Well, guys, that's going to do it for another episode of brand new releases for you guys to watch and stream. I hope you enjoyed this content, and if you did find a couple of gems for your watch list, please leave me a like and subscribe. Now, if I had to make a couple of picks this week, the first movie I'm going to pick is The Shrouds. Not only do you just have like Cronenberg doing his classic Crimes of the Future type feel with the music and just the kind of heavy sci-fi vibe, but I really think that the premise and the idea is just deep and compelling. You know, even some of the scenes where you see him wearing the shroud and just see the way that he's got cameras on his dead wife and she just looks like so kind of surreal. It just looks like we're going to get a lot of kind of disturbing themes in the film. You know what I mean? Like trying to bring people back to life and then trying to maybe corporatize it. I'm not sure if it's something that he's trying to monetize, but it just looks like some of the things that we see, it just looks good and deep and kind of creepy. So I really think I could get behind this kind of weird, eerie sci-fi tale. So that's going to be my first pick of the week. And for my second pick of the week, I know that there's not really anything super scary this week, so that's kind of a downside. But it's going to be two kind of more drama-filled, artsier films for me. And the second film I'm going to pick is Went Up the Hill. I just think that it's got a really compelling story. Again, it's like the spirit comes back and it's inhabiting 3 bodies. And it's like it was the dude's mom and she's dating him and now she's kind of channeling her through him. I don't know. It just looks like a really kind of weird clash and just a deep kind of drama romance. So you do have to be in the mood for that if you are going to kind of piggyback on that pick with me. But hopefully we do get something kind of interesting and compelling and a relationship that kind of strikes us and sticks with us. So that's going to be my second pick of the week. Well, guys, that's it for me for real this time, as I have got to get out of here. I have got a ton of movies to watch. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you. I appreciate you. I hope you guys have been taking care of yourselves, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
The Shrouds.
It's not meant for the living.
Maybe not meant for the dead either.